Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice radio, so today we're going to be looking at a deck which you can't play here yet, but you will be able to play here soon. By here, I mean outside of Japan. And it's making waves in Japan. It's going to win a tournament over in Japan, and I think it is very, very much worth taking a look. This is a deck that really revolves around Ultra Necrozma and Malamar, two cards that have not been released over here yet. But that's okay, they're both pretty gosh darn good. So we will start off with Ultra Necrozma because, you know, it's a card which is incredibly good. Now, as with many unreleased cards at the moment, my translation is coming from the lovely David Hockman over at Limitless TCG, and Ultra Necrozma is basically just a big, bulky Pokemon that does a lot of damage. It's a basic Pokemon that has 190 HP, which is large, and it's got one attack and a GX attack, which is low for a GX. They usually have 3 things. But the one attack it has got is great. For 1 metal, 1 psychic energy, 20 damage, discard all basic psychic attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 80 more damage for each energy discarded in this way. Which means if you discard 2 psychic energy, you do 180. You add a choice band onto there, and all of a sudden, you're actually hitting 210. That's enough to KO something like a Zoroark, bearing in mind that Zoroark can only do 150 back to you. This is very nice indeed. And then we get to the GX attack, which is not amazing. Same attack cost, 6 damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon in play. It's fine, it's not particularly spectacular. There will be times when it's useful. Generally speaking, it's not going to be great, but something to keep an eye on. Maybe your opponent ends up with 3 Zorua on the bench, in which case you can KO all of them at once. That will be awesome. Now, of course, there's lots of energy requirements here. The good news is that by the time Ultra Necrozma comes out, we're going to have 2 great ways of getting the energy on there. Firstly, Malamar. Malamar is basically electric. Or if you don't remember electric, it's basically Bronzong. And if you don't remember either of those, you just take a psychic energy from your discard and attach it to one of your benched Pokemon. It is phenomenal. It means you get a few psychic energy in your discard pile, and then you can just go ahead every turn attaching 1 extra psychic energy per Malamar that you've got on the bench. It's over the top great. But we do have another way to get the energy on here. It's Beast Ring. Now, you can only play this if your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards left. Search for up for 2 basic energy and attach them to one of your Ultra Beasts in play. Now, the deck list in Japan I'm referring to didn't actually play this, but it is something you should very much consider. Now, there is another item card that we really need to know about for this particular deck. It's Mystery Treasure. Discard 1 card from your hand, search your deck for 1 Psychic or Dragon Pokemon. It's literally just Ultra Ball, except you only have to discard 1 card from your hand, but you can only search for a Psychic or a Dragon Pokemon. Well, given that Ultra Necrozma is a Dragon Pokemon, and Malamar's a Psychic Pokemon, and you're going to be playing Tapu Lele, but Tapu Lele's a Psychic Pokemon, and there are a couple other Pokemon we're going to look at in a minute, which are also Psychic Pokemon. It's basically just a much better Ultra Ball. Why would you not play it, ladies and gentlemen? Now, there is one other unreleased card which does see a bit of play in this deck, and that is Tapu Lele. Now, the thing is, we actually do have Tapu Lele at the moment, but Tapu Lele, we've got the fairy one, which came out in Ultra Prism. The one we want to play here is exactly the same, except it's a Psychic Pokemon. It moves damage counters around the field, bearing in mind Ultra Necrozma's GX attack that essentially puts 36 damage counters on the field, and then Tapu Lele comes and swings them around. I told you that Ultra Necrozma's GX attack wasn't particularly amazing, and I meant it. But time you build in a Tapu Lele along with it, now, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at something which is much, much more impressive. And of course, it does cost 2 energy to use Tapu Lele's attack, but don't forget that we've got Malamar. Now, another Pokemon we need to play here is Dawn Wings Necrozma, a card which has actually been released outside of Japan. Now, the attack here is not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. You get to do 120 for free energy and it goes through resistance. Really here, we are excited by the ability, which allows you to just jump in the active whenever you feel like it. And then, of course, you play Floatstone as well, and it's just new Keldeo at that stage. It's just a way to always be able to switch your active. Don't forget you're playing multiple Malamar here. And Malamar has a retreat cost of 2, which is a little bit awkward. And you can only attach with Malamar to a bench Pokemon. So you can't have Malamar in the active and then just start attaching to it. That won't work. So, yeah, you kind of need to be playing a way to get out the active. Now, of course, I should mention that Dawn Wings Necrozma does have a GX attack here. And given that you're playing Malamar to get your energy, you can actually use it. 180 damage only if you've got more prize cards left than your opponent. And you've just got complete immunity from attacks next turn, damage and all other effects. That's actually probably a better GX attack than Ultra Necrozma. Now, do remember that Ultra Necrozma attack will combo really nicely with Tapu Lele. Because generally when you attack with Ultra Necrozma, you're just getting a KO. But you can then use the one that does 60 to all, and then use Tapu Lele. But then again, this might be a better GX attack. It gives you immunity, something to bear in mind. And of course, you should play Mew here. Mew from Fates Collide, you can just copy your attacks. It basically gives you a psychic type attacker hitting for psychic weakness. Remember, Dragon hits nothing for weakness, but Boswell is still everywhere. You should have a pretty good matchup against Zoroark, given that you can one-hit KO for free energy and they can't. But Boswell might give you a bit more trouble, but then Mew gets a KO on Boswell and you're all good. And to be honest, the rest of your item line and the rest of your deck looks fairly standard. Here is the list in its entirety, the one, or at least one of the ones that's been shared around Japan. And you can see there that it's all fairly standard. You need to be playing Field Blower here, because of course you are quite susceptible to ability lock with Garbodor, given that Malamar relies on abilities. And we've got a Parallel City here, but obviously that's just for Zoroark. Now, the thing to remember, Japan is playing X and Y on. So when I say Zoroark can't one-hit KO you, I am referring to our format when this deck becomes legal. In Japan's format at the moment, using Skyfield, your opponent can one-hit KO you, which is why you need Field Blower to get rid of it, as well as turning off Garbodor. It's why you need to be playing a Parallel City. If you can just stop 1 or 2 KOs, you can trade KOs with Zoroark here. It's just important that you either take the first KO or they whiff one, and that's what you're basically doing with Parallel City, trying to make them whiff a KO. Now, I know there's a bunch of cards in here that are Japan only. The two ones that really stick out are Shaymin EX and Versus Seeker, which have rotated here but haven't rotated in Japan. But you don't need those cards for this deck to work. So, okay, you'll need a slightly different build when this deck is legal over here. It will be legal when Forbidden Light comes out. But that's fine, ladies and gentlemen. The deck will still work, because everyone loses Shaymin and everyone loses Versus Seeker. And there's a bunch of cards that aren't legal yet. I mean, to be honest, the deck really revolves around Ultra Necrozma and Malamar, neither of which are released here. And you've also got Mystery Treasure. And as a side note, 4 Ultra Ball and 4 Mystery Treasure. You are going to get your Pokemon, ladies and gentlemen. And we saw this with electric decks back in the day. It's all about setting up electric. So those cards would play 7 or 8 Pokemon Search, and you do as well. Honestly, this is a great deck, and I have absolutely no doubt that it will be great when it comes out over here. You can't copy this deck list, but you can certainly use this as a starting point and roll from there. The majority of this deck will be legal, and everything else you can figure out later. But ladies and gentlemen, as with all of these decks, let me know what you think. I genuinely believe that as soon as this comes out, it will be one of the very best decks in the entire format. But if you disagree with me, that's what the comment section is there for. Go nuts, but be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.